Welcome to the new series of Speak Up, the television and social media platform for Freemasonry in New Zealand. I am Barry Rushton, your host, and thank you for joining us this evening. Tonight on the show, our first guest is a man who has built up a huge New Zealand company building customised truck trailers. These are unique and special, so if a big rig looms up in your rear view mirror driving down the motorway, you can blame Jeff Mear. Our second guest is likely to be a major contributing factor in the future success of our New Zealand baseball team. A South African resident after 5 years, Keegan Swanepoul. And closing out the show is our regular contributor, Graeme, who has a fabulous tale about a 93-year-old Freemason from New Plymouth. One of the guests I've been really looking forward to talking to tonight is right here. Jeff, it is nice to see you, mate.
Nice to meet you.
Wonderful to see you, my friend. Good on you. Mate, I think you've got some news for us, haven't you? Just last week, your company has won the Supreme Award at the actual Road Transport Association meeting. Is that correct?
Yes, that's right. And
tell us what you won and show us the prize that you got.
I won the Supreme Contribution to New Zealand Road Transport.
That's fantastic.
So this trophy was given to for my services to the road transport industry, more so helping the industry into for health and safety, safety of the vehicles on the road, and helping the people to understand the new regulations that's just come out.
So that was it. And Wairaki, you must have had a great night, right?
Yes, I did.
I like Wairaki. It's a great place to hold a function. I love it.
Yes, it is.
Before we go on any further, I just want to tell our audience here that your company is a trailer manufacturing company, right?
Yeah,
it's
heavy trailer manufacturing.
And then you call it Fruhoff.
Fruhoff, yes, right? That's right.
And now you've turned that to being the largest manufacturing company for all of those transport things, livestock, refrigeration.
That's right, yeah, we're industry leaders, yeah.
Mate, how does it feel to actually be doing something great? I mean, you've done something right. What did you do?
Basically understanding the industry as a whole. Our industry is very challenging in road transport because you're designing vehicles to suit our roads, and you're designing vehicles to suit the product at the cart. So it's very demanding.
Yeah.
So in our business, we get involved behind the client and understand what they're doing, and we build the equipment to suit their operation on the road. So safety comes first.
Great.
And then productivity comes second.
Great. So you might have a customer who comes and you say, right, I understand what you want. You'll actually design it for them. And then, of course, other people in a similar industry say, I wouldn't mind a trailer like that myself, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. That's how we work. Yeah. That's what you would like to achieve.
That's true. It's the same in all business, that's true. Now, tell me, without really getting political or sort of even ideological, I believe truck and trailers, maybe coupled with rail, is here to stay for the foreseeable future, right?
Well, absolutely. Road transport is Kiwi Rail's biggest customer.
Yeah.
And when you look at the whole framework of transportation, and it's one of our things that we say in our dialysis, land, sea and air. Effectively, transport is built up by land, sea and air. Road, on land, there's two modes of transport. There's road and rail. But for all those modes of transport to work, you need road to feed that network. So road's very important, and particularly in this country. But you've got to look at the formalities of road transport today, how people have changed into their buying patterns or even online purchases. For an example, the supermarkets. And how often do you go to the supermarket today?
I hate to say it, it's almost every day.
Absolutely. And back in our young times, it was a weekly purchase.
Yeah, exactly.
And supermarkets were large. But now the supermarkets are smaller, built up in residential areas, and people are demanding fresh food every day. Yep. So, for the lettuce that's grown in Gisborne, large produce area, that's in the supermarket the next day in Auckland. Yeah. And that's, you can only do that by road. And unfortunately, road's here to stay.
And if the roads drive us motorists crazy, they must drive you guys insane.
Well, very much so, particularly in built-up areas like Auckland. It'd be interesting for a person just to sit down in South Bombay at midnight, and you'll see a succession of trucks going up and down, going to the cities, going to the provincial centres, to drop their loads off or pick up, bring it back to Auckland.
I've got a little place up at the beach about 50 k's out of Auckland, and I come back early in the morning sometimes on a Saturday morning early, and I mean early, 5:30, 6, and I count the number of trucks going the other way just because it keeps me awake. But it's something to do, and huge numbers going north when I'm coming back into Auckland. It's incredible.
Well, very much so, because you've got all sorts. You know, you got refrigerated cargo, you got general freight, you even got livestock being travelled at night, containers being transshipped at night to different sites. There is a lot. There's a lot of cargo that is shifted. And New Zealand being a mountainous country, you know, sometimes rail can't get through, so you have to provide that service.
Transfer. Now, I do know that your company enjoys a great reputation for ethical behaviour and ethical construction and everything. I do know there are, in all businesses, some cowboys who come in. How do they last in such a responsible business as transport? Well,
that's one of the reasons why I won this award, is to do self-policing and working with the NZTA, the government reality, to work towards getting these cowboys off the road and making sure that they conform to what we do. It is challenging, but it's been worked through. And, you know, people, you know, it's been quite out in the industry at the moment about unsafe vehicles, and that's been really pursued and pushed at the moment.
So it's just generally undercutting all the time, and then it's got cutting corners and that with their own safety and their own vehicle roadworthiness. Is that what happens?
Yeah, brakes is the biggest issue. But, you know, in saying that, you know, the vehicles are very, very well inspected every 6 months, both truck and trailer, and they've got their own police force on the road that monitors all that. But, you know, like any industry, you have got your cowboys, and it's getting those cowboys out of it.
Now, at the beginning of the program, we saw some of the type of trailers, units you're doing. Being a bit of a musician myself, I'm interested in the extendable trombone trailer. Now, tell us a little bit about what that does and what is that?
A trombone is a trailer that we build for over-dimensional cargo. Okay. So in New Zealand we got a rule called we call it the VDAM rules, the Vehicle Dimensions and Mesh. So everything that you see on the road is built to that rule. But once you go outside that rule, it becomes an over-dimensional vehicle. And so in a case of that, you need a trailer to cart these over-dimensional cargoes. This particular trailer
extends,
yeah, gotcha. And it fits a parameter of what the dimensions should be, and extends out from one dimension straight out to about 30 odd metres long.
Wow. Jeff, there's another trailer that I'm very interested in, because I know everybody talks about the humane aspect of transporting livestock, or even chickens in particular, right? I believe that you have created, I think, probably the most ethical, humane trailer for chicken transport, correct?
Yes, that's right.
Tell us a little bit about that, because it's fascinating.
It's one of my finer projects that I've ever done. We were approached by the poultry industry to, in the face of public pressure, is to prove a more humane way of carting the chickens from the growing sheds, where they're in a controlled temperature environment, to the end of life.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
And so we designed a unit that enables the chickens to be loaded on what we call modules, and loaded onto the trailer, and we have a retractable curtain that comes down from the side. Now the roof is a lift-up roof, and the roof is like a loading device that holds the modules, and then the curtain comes down the side of it, and it keeps the chickens nice and warm for their trip.
Great.
So it's one of the finer projects that I've ever done.
Fantastic. Oh, good on you. And there's another one you have too, called a walking floor trailer. Now that sounds interesting. It sounds like it just does this, does it?
Yes, it's American. It's American product that we brought into the country here. It's used for discharging bulk cargo out through the back of the doors, particularly in the timber industry with chip, where the high-sided vehicles. But if you had a normal conventional tip, it becomes unstable. So you can use a walking floor to push the cargo out, and it's quite a nifty device, because it's all a series of slats. Yeah. And they all they all go forward, push the cargo, and then every third slat comes back till the whole lot's retracted, and then it pushes out again. And we build those units up to about 15 metres long to push the cargo out. So you can imagine the force that's on the deck that's being pushed out.
You see, I know nothing about the transport industry really, but I do know that there would have been the days where they just driver jumped in the truck and just drove. But everything's changed now, right? You've got so many sophisticated aspects that go with it. Tell us about some of the new things that's happening out there.
Well, for the driver, for drive licensing, to become a Class 5, which is a big unit, you have to follow a whole lot of procedures, making sure that you're fit to drive that vehicle. But the vehicles today, particularly European vehicles, they're far more safe than what a normal car is very much. Yep. So So if you look at a truck, a truck's got proximity alarms around it. So, if it's a child sitting on the right-hand corner and he can't see it, it will warn the truck driver.
Right.
And some of them will display an image on the windscreen that, hey, there's something on your right. You've got CNI cameras that's watching the driver. And if the driver's getting drowsy, it shakes the seat as well as the steering wheel. And it alerts home base.
Okay.
Tells home base, hey, your driver is drowsy, so they can do something about it. And that's becoming a more common thing that's been fit into the vehicles. But also adaptive cruise, for making sure the driver doesn't speed.
We need a truck, of course, that's a device that actually pulls over if I want to pass, but leaving that aside. Now tell me, with all this time that you've been involved with the company, which is fantastic, you've joined Freemasonry, and you haven't joined that long ago, about 10 years ago. About
10 years,
time,
that's right.
So what made you finally decide, look, I think I'll get into Freemasonry. I've got plenty of time on besides what you... I'm sure you didn't have any of that, but tell me why you made that decision.
Well, no, I didn't have any time.
No, I bet you didn't.
But I was approached by worshipful brother Roy Scarhill, and he was one of my clients back in my Roadmaster days, and he said to me, are you interested to join a fraternity of fine men? And I said, what is it? He said, Freemasonry. And at that time, I wasn't too sure about it. I knew it existed because I saw these guys dressed up in suits and, and wearing skirts. That I thought I was so wrong.
We won't call them skirts, we'll call them aprons. We'll call them aprons.
But he told me what Freemasonry was all about, and I said, "Oh, let me think about it." And so I went to see my friend Paul Chappell and talked to him about it. And he looked at me and said, "What do you know about Freemasonry?" I said, I just got asked by Roy Scarhill," and he reached over and shook my hand and said, "Join Freemasonry because I am one."
It's amazing, isn't it?
And this is a guy that I've known for 20 odd years.
Unbelievable. You see, in that short time, and a lot of people don't realise how the structure within the Freemasons Lodge, but in that short time you've actually been a master of 2 lodges, and you're still a master of 1 now for the 2nd time.
Yes.
But even leaving that aside, you've been have taken on the position of being the charity officer of your district, and have been invited to be on the charity board from Freemasons in Wellington. Now that's congratulations. That's
thank you.
Terrific in that short period of time. So you obviously know what you're doing.
Oh, I think so.
Well, tell me this then. One thing I am keen about is that if someone comes to you with a charitable sort of idea, or are there any parameters? What are the things you're looking for that would make it a worthy charitable event for the Freemasons to get behind?
Well, the charity projects that we need to have a look at is something that has a benefit for the community.
Yeah.
And that can range from a lot of things, from helping your local school or low decile school to helping out some non-charitable trusts or even individuals. I love what I do, and I love getting behind the projects and helping the lodges to take these projects on.
Well, congratulations, Jeff. It's been great having you here. Congratulations on your company winning this award. It is superb. I think it's the first time a trailer manufacturing company has been involved, it has won an award as such as this, right?
Yes, exactly, yeah, for road transport.
Which is fantastic.
Yep.
All the best, mate. Looking forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you.
Bye. My second guest this evening is Keegan Swanepoul. It's nice seeing you, mate. Thanks for being here with us.
Thanks for having me.
Originally from Goodwood, Cape Town, South Africa, right?
That's the one.
In New Zealand, tell us why you made the shift.
I'm in construction, so I was building the Cape Town Stadium for the 2010 World Cup, and I met a New Zealander down there named Jeff. He was one of the project managers up there, and he just randomly said, "Well, I'm going to find you, and you need to come work for us." So 5 years later down the track, I get an email from Jeff, and he says, "Hey, I found you, come work for us." And now I'm here.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And last season with this program, we had a couple of your friends on, and they told us quite a bit about South Africa.
Mm-hmm.
We have our own sort of misgivings or even thoughts, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So apart from, say, family members or other people who might be back in South Africa, what parts of Cape Town do you actually miss?
Oh, I miss where I come from.
Yeah.
The beaches, the city life over there, it is really, really, really good down there. If you know where to go to, you're as safe as anything, and it's just awesome. To my opinion, it's still one of the most beautiful countries in the world.
I know things sometimes go out of the news, you know what I
Mhm.
mean, but I think things still are a little bit sort of edgy in South Africa, correct?
Yep.
I mean, it's things like that. However, we wish them the best, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Now, a lot of New Zealanders will not know this, but actually I'm in the presence of baseball royalty, I believe, right? You are a well-known figure in South Africa with regards to being a member of their World Cup baseball team and have played in many of the World Cup series.
Yep.
Correct?
Yeah, pretty much.
As much as I believe that you were voted the best first baseman out of the whole tournament when it was held in Italy in 2006, 2005, 2006.
Yes,
correct?
that's the one.
That's a fantastic achievement.
No, thank you very much for that.
So, which is wonderful, you know. Can you? I know it's a few years back, but can you? Is there a take-home moment from that tournament that you cherish the most?
Oh, yes. There was a semi-final we played against Russia. We were down 7-6, I think it was. We had a guy on second base, and I was up. The usual story: bottom of the ninth, last batter up.
Yeah.
And for something, I just clicked that day, and then I launched a home run over the left-hand side of the field and won the game for us.
Boom.
So yeah.
At times like that, I sometimes watch. This is baseball.
Yes.
This is baseball,
Baseball.
not softball.
Yes,
Right?
yes.
Baseball's where you chuck it.
Baseball is overarm,
Yeah,
softball's
softball's
underarm,
underarm,
and it's predominantly played by
Yeah.
the female as well.
So I do watch the Americans ones,
Yes.
and there must be the zone that when you hit that ball. I mean, did you see the ball clearly? Was it just an instinct shot?
Oh,
Was
yeah.
it, you just saw it and away we go.
Yeah. Well, roughly you have about
Your 10th
points,
second,
yeah,
right?
yeah, basically to decide if you're going to swing the bat or not and see
Yeah.
where the ball's going to be and place it. So yeah, it's almost like blurry vision, but when you're in that moment, everything's zoned in and you can see it like a watermelon, basically.
I'm surprised that actually New Zealand let you in, because I believe you were part of actually our loss
Yes.
when we were going through that, right? You had a
Yes.
couple of home runners and
Yeah.
beat us handsomely, right?
Yes, yeah. So we played New Zealand twice in the World Baseball Classic in 2016. We beat we beat them. I'm one of you guys now. We beat New Zealand 7-1 and 9-2 in the two games.
Yeah. Look, however, there's a other side of the coin. I believe that you are now eligible to actually play for New Zealand.
Yes,
correct.
yes.
And so, have you been picked for the team? Are you going to be?
Yes. So at this point in time, I've got my citizenship now from Baseball New Zealand. They sped the whole process up for me. So in December, January, we're playing Olympic qualifiers.
Fantastic.
So I'll be representing New
And
Zealand
you play
for
for an
that.
Auckland team too, right?
Yes.
But like the Warriors type of thing. Isn't
Yeah.
it?
Yeah.
So, in your mind, what do you? I know 2006. We're now 2019. Now you still look fit. You still look very
Yeah,
active.
yeah.
What do you think you actually will bring to the team, the New Zealand team, apart from your experience, and your first baseman expertise? What other things do you think that you will bring? I'll say a senior member, because I'm sure you probably are.
Yeah. Well, apart from obviously teaching the youngers, because that's basically coming up and showing them how to do what they need to do, I'll be one of the leaders of the tour as well. So basically just helping everyone up, showing them the ropes, giving my experience to the younger guys so they can bring themselves up, and basically just help where I can.
Good. Well, I bet it'll be great. It'll be great. Now, of course, we can't have a South African as a guest, and not talk about the World Cup rugby. It would be impossible not to do that.
Yes, yes.
Great game we had a couple of weeks ago. It was a tough game.
Yeah,
wasn't it?
yeah.
In actual fact, I think probably, a bit presumptuous here, but I think it'll be the All Blacks and the South Africans in the final. That's what
Yes,
I'm
I fully agree with that. It would be the first time since '95 where we can actually have that opportunity.
Tell me, do you think there's any truth in the rumour that I've been hearing that the South Africans have infiltrated the kitchen staff in the hotel that the All Blacks are staying in?
No, not as yet.
Resurrected Susie?
No, she's long gone already.
Speaking with regards to Freemasonry, Keegan, I believe that your grandfather, that's how I think how you found out about Freemasonry, right? It was your grandfather. Now, he was very high up in was it the Scottish?
Scottish, yeah.
Tell me a little bit about what you know.
So, actually, I only found out about that whole situation at my sister's wedding, because he had a couple of his mates that came around and they were wearing Freemason rings. I was like, oh, well, let me ask the question. And then they were telling me about the Scottish Constitution a little bit, and then they said, well, actually, your granddad's one of the Grand Masters. I was like, oh, all right, I didn't know that. Wow. So it was all secrecy and things like that out there. But from that moment, that just sparked my interest again, because I've always had a massive interest in Freemasonry because I'm a history buff. I love the whole secret society per se and finding out things and things like that. But then once you actually get involved in it, you understand that it's nothing like that. It's more of a brotherhood than anything else, where everyone just helps everyone else.
Quite so. How long have you been and involved in Freemasonry yourself? How long?
About 3 years now, sorry?
No, 2 or 3 years. So it's still quite
Yeah.
quite young. So now that you've had a little taste and you sort of know that, and you're enjoying it, I'm sure, you know, there are young members who come in sometimes, they're just gung-ho, they want to know everything all the time, you know. Is there anything that you might tell some of these people that Freemasonry sort of soaks into the system? It's not sort of like an ice bucket over the head of someone, you know what I mean? It's just, you don't get it all at once, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So tell me the sort of things that you might want to say to young people when they join, you know, when they ask you, shall I join? What do you say to them?
So I was pretty much the same. I always wanted to know everything right there and then, but what you've got to understand is it's a process, and it's a learning process, because there's steps you need to take. It's basically you need to follow those steps to learn and get reward out of what you're learning. That's what I would say to them, is, hey, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. And once you get there, every little step you take is one more reward closer to the end.
You know, you've been involved with the team sport,
Yes.
you know, so there's obviously a brotherhood or a fraternity in that. I mean, just like being in a band, you know. So do you see any similarities or even slight differences between the camaraderie that you might have with your teammates in the sports field and the camaraderie you'll have with men in Freemasonry of all different ages? Do you see a connection there, or where are the differences, if any, in your mind?
I don't think there are many differences, to be honest, because being in a team, you literally play together and play, and obviously get to your end goal that you want to get to together, and you're always with each other, and there's always fun, there's always a good spirit. It's exactly the same as with Freemasonry. You learn about a whole bunch of different people that you would never met in your life before, from any type of range, and everyone's got their own little story. So it's basically up to you to pick out little good bits of every single story that everyone tells you.
Keegan, you are a good member of, I believe it's Lodge Ponsonby number 54, right?
That's the one.
It's a good lodge, that one.
Yeah, very much.
It is a very good lodge.
Yeah.
I think we should give a bit of a shout out to the master. The master's worshipful brother
Stephen McKenzie.
Stephen McKenzie. Well, the worshipful master Stephen and the brethren of Lodge Ponsonby number 54. Here is a great Freemason from your lodge. He's about to say hello to you guys.
Hey guys.
He needs to do a lot better than that. Good on you, mate. Thanks for
Thank
coming.
you very much.
All the best, and hey, much success with obviously Freemasonry, but
Yes.
also much success in the New Zealand team.
Thank you very much.
I'm sure they'll value having you there. And it's experience goes a long way, and obviously ability as well.
Yes.
Good on you. Thanks for coming.
Thank you very much.
Great seeing you. And rounding out the show, of course, this evening is our regular contributor, Graeme Houston, who I believe, Graeme, you're going to talk about someone who is very much alive. True?
That's true.
Welcome, my friend.
Thank you, Barry.
Good to see you.
Tonight we're going to talk about an icon in Taranaki, an icon in New Plymouth. His name is Wilson Still, or commonly known as Willie Still.
I love that name, Willie Still.
Willie Still. Willie was born, not actually a New Plymouth man, he was born in Martin in 1926 and shifted to New Plymouth with the family in 1935. So he's been around long enough to say he is really a true Taranaki and a New Plymouth man. So he's raised a family there and been a very, very successful businessman there. He started a company called Riddick Brothers and Still. The Riddicks were two brothers and his brothers-in-law, and Willie Still. And that was a very large construction company in Taranaki. They built many, many projects in and around Taranaki and in New Plymouth. The locals will be familiar with the Tasman Hotel, which was a multi-storey building down by the old railway station. That was built by Riddick Brothers and Still. The McKechnie Copper and Brass Extrusion Plant, that was built over 6 acres. That was another project. The Northern Roller Mills out at Bell Block, construction site over 2 acres, built by the company. And so the hotel at Bell Block, the New Plymouth swimming pools down at Kara Park, the water treatment plant for New Plymouth, and 20 odd bridges that they built throughout the Taranaki area. And there were many, many more buildings that they did, but they were some of the bigger ones that he and his company did. So today, Willie's reached that grand old age of 93 years of age, but it's his community involvement that we really need to talk about. He was involved with the Taranaki Apprenticeship Committee. He was on the Labour Department Employment Assistance Scheme. He was on the Taranaki Regional Council, the Taranaki and the New Zealand Master Builders Association. He's a life member of both those organisations. The Pukeiti Rhododendron Trust. We've all heard of the Pukeiti Rhododendron
Beautiful
Trust.
gardens.
He's a life member of that organisation as well. The Taranaki Pioneer Village. He was on that committee to re-establish that historical village down in Stratford. The Save the Opera House Committee. YMCA New Plymouth. He and his wife Rosie, whom he was married to for 60 odd years, had tremendous involvement with that, including being on the board of the National YMCA, and both Rosie and Willie are life members of that organisation as well. Taranaki Hospice as a trustee, New Plymouth City Councillor, and he's a past president of the Rotary Club of New Plymouth.
I don't think Willie ever went to bed.
Well, it doesn't sound like it, does it? Now,
Been in a meeting every day of the week.
Now, in addition to that, he and Rosie donated 100 acres of forest land to the Queen Elizabeth Trust. Now, Willie was a doer. Willie and Rosie were doers. They would talk about something, but they would do it. Many people talk about things, and you don't get on and do it. Yeah. He does. Now, Barry, why am I telling you this story about Willie Still, a
Because
great
you
community
knew
man?
I lived in New Plymouth.
No, that's not the reason. I told you that because Willie Still is a very good Freemason.
Yeah, he is.
He became a Freemason in 1950. Now, he's been chairman of the Lodge Directors. He's been a Lodge trustee for 12 years. He's been chairman of the Taranaki Masonic Trust for 12 years. He's was chairman of the building committee. But he never took office.
Wow.
So Willie got behind the lodge and worked in many areas, but he never took office.
Well, that's unusual, but wonderful.
That is, he never fulfilled any of the roles in the office, such as master or wardens or deacons and that right.
Yeah.
He exemplified to me, he exemplified the understanding that the real work of the lodge, of a Masonic lodge, doesn't take place in the lodge room. It takes place outside the lodge room. And that's where he put his efforts. He made a tremendous contribution to the organisation outside of the lodge room. And he let other people take the office. Now, I've got to declare an interest here, Barry. Willie is my friend. And I cannot speak more highly, and so I know of his involvement in that community in New Plymouth and the work that he's done for the Freemasons.
Well, it
themselves.
sounds like he epitomises what we want as Freemasons to do good in the community.
Need to tell you, if you want to know more information about Willie Still,
I'd like to.
there's plenty. You can obtain this book. It's called Still Building.
That looks good too.
And it's the story, the autobiography of Willie Still and, of course, his beloved Rosie, from whom he never ventured very far away.
Fantastic.
Over 60 years. And it'll tell you the story about the buildings that they achieved, their involvement with all their organisations. Willie Still Building.
Mate, what a great choice.
Thank you,
Good
Barry.
bloke, eh?
Very
on
good
you.
bloke.
Thanks,
Very
Dad.
nice guy.
See you next week, my friend.
Thank you, Barry.
Well, that's our show for this week. Don't forget, if you'd like to know more about Freemasonry, and you won't find it in the Dan Brown's book, but you will by going to the Grand Lodge website, which is freemasonsnz.org. In the meantime, if you've been thinking, planning, or asking questions about joining Freemasonry, we have a website for this very purpose. It's simply welcometofreemasonry.co.nz. We hold a regular dinner experience where you can meet other Freemasons before making a decision to join. So once again, thanks for joining us. See you next week.